How's it going, guys? Shizukat's here. Today's video is going to be a quick one, and we're going to be talking about something I noticed in the recently released August roadmap, or August roadmap, as some of you have been pointing out in the comments. However, the thing that I noticed was anything but marvelous. In fact, it's something that could potentially be extremely detrimental to game balance for an entire month and a half. In order to understand exactly what is wrong, we need to first take a look at the Japanese release schedule so that we can compare the two. In JP, the game was released at the very end of October 2020. A little less than a month later, the first set of expert hunts were added to the game in the towns of Vellore, Emberglow, Theatropolis, and Rippletide. A couple weeks later, we got the prologue for Bestower of Fame and gained access to Flamesgrace, which is a town already available in English. A couple weeks after that, we got the other 4 expert hunts in Cragspear, Clearbrook, Sunshade, and Shepherd's Rock. And finally, a couple more weeks after that, we got the first actual story chapter for any of the Bestower story arcs, which was Bestower of Wealth Chapter 1 in Victor's Hollow. Now, the most important part in all of this is the expert hunts. As you can see, in JP, we had all of the expert hunts unlocked before we even got any of the Bestower chapters. Meanwhile, in English, the roadmap has expert hunts scheduled for patch version 1.2.0, which is when Bestower of Power comes out, an entire month after Chapter 1 of Bestower of Wealth, and a couple weeks after the Tikilen Cup, which wasn't even released in JP until February, an entire 2 months after we had already gotten access to all of the expert hunts. Now you're probably asking, why is this so important? Obviously, expert hunts means more EXP, more guide stones, and more chances to get sacred seals for your class ups, but there's actually one other huge benefit unlocked by these expert hunts, and that's the other 4 battle-tested NPCs. The battle-tested NPCs, also known as BT NPCs for short, are level 85 bosses that can be defeated to get the battle-tested weapons. Right now, there are 4 of them in the game. The BT Axe in Vellore, the BT Bow in Emberglow, the BT Tome in Theatropolis, and the BT Spear in Rippletide. Each one of these are the hardest available content currently in the game, besides the level 100 NPC in Flamesgrace. They hit hard, only have 2 weaknesses apiece, and they have a DPS check mechanic where if you don't defeat them in 15 turns, they'll start inflicting 99,999 damage to your entire frontline if they get a chance. If you can defeat these BT NPCs, you'll be able to get some of the strongest weapons currently available in the game, which are, of course, the battle-tested weapons. The 4 missing NPCs are the BT Dagger in Cragspear, BT Staff in Clearbrook, BT Fan in Sunshade, and BT Sword in Shepherd's Rock. Until these NPCs get added, we don't have access to any of those 4 BT weapons. So when and how are these supposed to become available? In JP, the back half of the battle-tested NPCs were made available when the expert hunt associated with that region was completed for the first time. And therein lies the problem. If expert hunts for the back half aren't released until mid to late October, that's an entire month and a half later than they probably should be, and thus an entire month and a half that the player base will be without 4 of the battle-tested weapons. It gets even worse when you consider one of the things that battle-tested weapons will be used for down the line, which is weapon enhancement. Currently, you guys are familiar with innocent weapons going up to Innocent 3. They can be upgraded at the blacksmith by fighting elite enemies in the Flamesgrace area and selling their special loot. Later on, weapons will be available to upgrade to level 4, but this step requires consuming a battle-tested weapon. These level 4 weapons are significantly more powerful than battle-tested weapons as well, and will basically become the standard for taking on new content moving forward. So you can see how problematic it would be if half of the classes in the game had access to weapons like Innocent 4 and Fenrir 4, while the other half are stuck on vanilla BTs. There are a few ways that the devs can circumvent this problem. One way would be to accelerate expert hunts ahead in the schedule, which would be the preferred option for the player base, as it gives access to the additional XP, guide stones, and chances at sacred seals, as well as the obvious access to the other BT weapons earlier than they were intended to. However, this is probably not something that the dev team can just do, and is much easier said than done. The more realistic solution to the problem is to simply give players access to the other 4 BT NPCs without requiring defeating the expert hunts. They could tie their requirement to something else instead, such as, for example, standard hunts. This would allow the game balance to stay on track with new content like the Bestower chapters and arenas to have the adequate equipment needed to take them on. That covers everything I wanted to discuss today. As always, if you have any questions, feel free to leave them down in the comment section below. I'm sure you all have a lot of questions regarding whether or not you should farm innocent weapons, especially with new series of weapons coming out down the line like Fenrir and Tyrant. I'm probably going to have a video up soon explaining everything that you should know about these weapon series and the process of upgrading them, so look out for that in the near future. Until next time, this has been Cheesecats. Bye!